Hi folks, welcome back. Thank you for watching. Please do hit subscribe if you haven't done so yet. It really does help when you do that. So today folks, I've got a really interesting looking piece of gear for you. This here is the 2020 instrument transformer from Lightning Boy over in the States. Now, as you'll know on this channel, I'm always on the lookout for interesting and weird and wonderful bits of gear to show you. And this really piqued my interest because what it essentially is a completely passive, so there's no power input anywhere on it, one-to-one audio transformer for your pedal board. Now, audio transformers are more typically found in pro audio recording gear, and a lot of the preamps I use here are Neve style preamps, which are packed full of transformers. That's their whole thing. Now, the reason I really like the transformer sound is, to my ears, it kind of fattens out the low end a little bit and just makes recordings sound a little bit more glossy and, for want of a better expression, posh. It just sort of polishes everything, fattens it out, and adds a little bit more sort of analog character to everything. So the idea of having this on my pedal board was really interesting. Now, I've read a lot of things about this little pedal online. Some people say it's absolutely fantastic. Other people say it's not worth bothering with. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to put this through 7 different tests and different applications to see exactly where it shines, where it's super subtle, where it's more obvious, and just get to know this a little bit and work out what I want to do with it. So what I'm going to do first and foremost is 2 different guitars. I'm going to use my Gronlund, which has a TV Jones Ful-Fidelity Filtertron in it, which is a very low output pickup. And speaking to Mike, this probably won't do much with a low output pickup. You really need to push the signal into this transformer to saturate it and get that character. So with a sort of 4K output pickup, it probably won't do too much at all. Now, I'm then going to use my Gretsch Duo Jet, which has the TV Jones T-Armond pickups in it. And the bridge pickup has a DC resistance of like 12K, so it's very punchy, very loud, so we might get a bit more saturation with that. I'm then going to hit this with a boost pedal because, again, saturating the core is where we're really going to get the effect of this pedal. So I'm going to use the Effectrode Fire Bottle, which is a very clean but 30 dB boost. So we're really going to slam the signal into the 2020 to see what effect it has there. I'm then going to use an amp you won't have seen on this channel before, apart from maybe in the background of camera shots, which is an Ashdown Fallen Angel 180. Now, that is exactly what it sounds like. It is a tube amp, which is 180 watts. And if you're wondering how loud it is, too fucking loud is how loud it is. But the reason I'm going to use this is because it has an effects loop on it. I don't like effects loops, I never use them, but this amp has one. And more than that, I can use the foot switch to bring the effects loop in and out, so we can kind of A/B it in real time. So I'm going to put the 2020 in the loop of the amp, crank the preamp up so we can push as much level into this thing as we can, and turn the master down, obviously, I don't want to kill anyone, and see what effect it has running in the effects loop. Then I'm going to use it in line after a mic recording. So I'm going to use my console over there and the preamp in there, which is a non-transformer preamp. It's just a very sort of squeaky clean pre. And I'm then going to bring the signal out of the console and put one feed straight into my interface, the other into the 2020, so we can A/B between that. Then I'm going to try using a bass guitar. Now, I am not a bassist, so my playing is going to be super sloppy, I'm sure, but bassists typically have a very high output because they're an octave down. They kind of have to just punch the signal out of the pickups much harder. So we may hear more of effect with the bass than we did with the guitar. So I'm going to compare a clean DI straight into the interface with it running through the 2020. And finally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a synth and see how that, a line level signal, which will be a low impedance signal, is affected by the 2020 as well. So that's 7 different tests in a lot of different applications, so we can see exactly what this pedal is all about and what it's capable of. Can it do more than subtle, or is it always going to be sort of very much on the sort of mild end of the spectrum? Let's find out. So without further ado, guys, let's get going. there we are, folks. Now, please do comment underneath and let me know what you thought of the 2020. I love chatting about nerdy guitar stuff with you guys. But as a general overview of everything you just heard, I'll be completely honest, I thought it was going to do more. I hoped it was going to do more. In half of those situations, it was so subtle, if having any effect at all. And when it was having an effect, whether that was a desirable effect or not is kind of subjective and up to you. Now, with the two guitars at the start, as predicted, with the lower output Filtertron in the Gronlund, that wasn't hitting the transformer anywhere near hard enough for it to really have any effect whatsoever. With the T-Armonds, that was hitting it hard enough, and we were getting some of that thickening in the low mid that transformers are known for. But to my ears, it was also rolling off a bit of high end. Now, whether that's desirable or not is up to you. If you're using a bright guitar into a bright amp, you might benefit from that. You might like that effect. But for someone who likes clarity and definition in their sound, I would say it's probably not worth the thickening to lose the highs. Now, with the boost pedal, 30 dBs of boost was certainly saturating the core of this. But to be completely honest, with that much boost, regardless of the wattage of amp you're going into and how much headroom it's set with, 30 dBs is going to overdrive the amp. And once the tubes are saturating and compressing, that's going to hide a lot of the character of what you're putting into it. So yes, I think it was definitely thickening up the sound and having that sort of transformer effect. But whether it was audible or not is a different matter with it going into an amp that's always going to be overdriving with that much boost going into it. Now, running it in the loop of the Ashdown, to me, that dropped a lot of level doing that. And I did check with another true bypass pedal in the loop that it wasn't the loop dropping the level. It's not. It was the 2020. Arguably, that could be useful if you are wanting to dime your preamp section, but sort of throttle back the power amp. It might work for that. But I personally wouldn't use it in the loop of an amp. I wouldn't use a loop ever, to be honest. But I wouldn't use it in that application. Now, running it after the mic signal coming out of my console, that was more interesting because to me it did give a little bit more of that kind of thickening, poshing up effect that transformer-based mic pre's were known for. So it could be more useful in that situation if you're someone with a fairly budget microphone running straight into a fairly budget interface. Having this in line could add a little bit more of that sort of glossy poshness that more sort of high-end transformer-based pro audio equipment is known for. So it could be more useful in that situation. Now, with the bass guitar, I think we were, again, definitely getting more of that thickening effect. And that's probably because bass guitars are typically a much hotter output than six strings. They're an octave down and lower frequencies carry more energy. So we would have been saturating the core of the transformer more. I would say running this in line directly after your instrument, this would be much more suited to bass than six string. But we were getting some thickening. Now, finally, with the synth, I had the volume of the synth all the way up, and it was, of course, giving this a low impedance line level input. I think the effect there was subtle at best. It really didn't add too much to it to my ears. So is the 2020 worth it then? Well, as I said at the start of this outro, in certain situations it does have an effect, but whether that's desirable or not is up to you. Now, if you're running it just inline on your pedal board with your guitar going through it into your amp and you're expecting it to have a significant effect on your tone, it won't, to be completely honest. Unless you are really hitting this hard, it's not going to have too much of an effect on the tone. And even when you are hitting it hard, let's be honest, we are talking subtle with a capital S, size 72, bold, underlined. We are talking really, really subtle. So is this worth $99 plus international shipping plus import duty for me? I would argue probably not, but depending on what you're trying to achieve with it, it could be useful. So I would say it's definitely more suited to bass. It could potentially be useful running inline after a microphone before an interface to kind of fatten it up and add a bit more of a sort of studio effect to it. But on your pedal board, unless you're running several of these chained together, as Mike says you can do to really saturate a lot of cores, I would say it's probably not worth it. But please do let me know your opinions, guys. Comment below. I love chatting this through with all of you. And please do carry on subscribing to this channel as well. I know I always say it, but it does make a big, big difference when you do that. So thank you for watching, folks. I hope this was interesting and useful for you, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.